Hello, and thank you for watching our STEM Ambassador in Scotland Week 2023 career interview video. Today, we're going to be speaking to Ashleigh Kitchiner, who is a marine mammal consultant, and she's going to be telling us a little bit about the subjects that she took at school and her study and career route to date, and a little bit about the sector that she works in. And then we'll be asking her some questions that have been sent in by our young people. All our STEM ambassadors like Ashleigh volunteer. They work across all sorts of STEM sectors and they volunteer to let young people know a bit more about the different opportunities that are available in various STEM sectors. So without any further ado, I'll pass over to Ashleigh.
Thank you very much. What a nice introduction there. Yes, so my name is Ashleigh, and I am a senior marine mammal consultant. So I work in a sector called the private sector, and that's where we have lots of consultants, particularly around environmental sciences and ecologists. So basically, the way I got here, my favourite subject was biology. I really, really enjoyed life sciences. I didn't quite know that I was going to end up in more of a ecology or animal role. I was really interested in human health and disease as well. So you don't have to know what you're going to do from an early age. It can absolutely develop as you start learning more and more. So I really enjoyed sciences. So I did that at GCSE and also at A level. And then I went to university. And because I enjoyed sort of multiple aspects of biology, I just took biology straight up. I didn't do marine biology or anything like that. I was still trying to find my feet and figure out what sort of topic was really, really going to grab me. I always knew that I enjoyed the environment and nature and conservation, but I didn't really understand all the careers that were available in this sector. So I did my biology degree, and again, I still enjoyed all the topics on human health and disease and the modules on sort of biomedicine. And I was able to choose a few modules on conservation as well, and wildlife conservation and management. And I thoroughly enjoyed them. But again, I just wasn't sure of all the jobs. So I did a placement, which was in the second year of uni, and that placement was with the North Wales Wildlife Trust. And that was going out, doing a bit of site clearance, path management, learning all about newt surveys, bat surveys, water surveys, so many things to learn about in this sector, and what it's like when you're actually in that job. And that placement really sparked the passion for me and really sort of highlighted that there are so many jobs in this sector. So then I carried on with uni, and I did my final project was on pilot whales. And then I did an internship and where I saw wild animals, wild dolphins. I was on board a ferry for a month and learnt so much. And that just really, really set in stone, right? I want to see these animals for the rest of my life. So that's kind of how that sort of feeling of this is definitely what I want sort of embedded. I then went on and did a master's. So my master's was in, again, sort of whale and dolphin genetics. And then I did a whole host of different jobs. So still trying to find my feet, trying to figure out what it is that I enjoy. I worked for a charity. So I worked on board ferries, teaching people about whales and dolphins and getting to see them out in the wild. I've worked at another consultancy previously, and I've also worked as a freelancer. So that means that I've worked for myself, going out and doing these surveys whenever I wish. Right now, I work at a consultancy again. So I work mainly desk-based. There are some times where I get to go out to sea, but at the moment I work for a consultancy and I'm writing reports and doing assessments. And this is to assess the impacts on marine mammals. So they are very, very affected by underwater noise. So we look at noise measurements of construction and see if this is going to be harmful for those animals. So that's just a little bit of an insight into how I got to where I am. Definitely finding my feet and doing lots of different jobs along the way and just trying new things, trying the placement at the Wildlife Trust, trying consultancy, trying, go into survey and work for myself as well, which I think is the key. Don't be afraid to try new things. But yeah, so that's pretty much how I arrived here.
Thank you so much for that, Ashleigh. Yes, some brilliant takeaways from there. As you say, you didn't always know what you wanted to work as or study, and I think we find that a lot with our young people. They're asked an awful lot of the time, what is do you think you want to be? What do you want to do? And you don't need to know that from the start. You can, and as you say, you've had many jobs and before you've ended up where you are here. So don't feel that you have to know from sort of 15, 16 what it is that you want to do. So a few questions that have been sent in. Um, you did say that you knew you were interested in the environment and things. We have been asked, did you always have an interest in marine mammals, or was that something that came to you later?
So when it comes to marine mammals, it's something that I've had from a very early age. I think I probably watched Free Willy. I can't even count how many times. All the ornaments and things that in my room, I remember as a child, they were all dolphin or whale based. So I did have that, I think, innate obsession. But I just didn't know that there would be jobs around that. I thought I just love these animals and that was enough. But now I get to do the job and help protect these animals, which is really, really great.
I think that's another good point. It's not just necessarily what subjects you're good at school, but what your interests are. And with regards to that, one of our young people was asking, so the subjects that you've talked about, the subjects that you took, what other skills are important in the role that you're in just now?
I've got a dog. Just bear with me one
That's
minute. I'm
okay.
just going to let him out the room. See you later. So what are the skills? I would say being able to talk to people is one big skill. So being able to network with people is really, really useful. So I did my placement with a wildlife trust that was very much land focused, not marine based, which is what I do now. However, I spoke to everybody there, asked them, what opportunities are there? What would you suggest if I want to go out to sea? Do you know anybody that are offering these kind of volunteer opportunities or anything like that? Not being afraid to ask as well, because ultimately you'll go to a placement or a volunteership or internship, and there will be people that are more experienced than you and may know of a lot more opportunities than you do. And it's about trying to find those for yourself and asking for those opportunities. So networking and speaking to people is really, really useful. Another skill I would say is trying quite a few things. You might try one thing and be like, well, that wasn't for me. And that's fine. That's you on your way to figuring out what is for you. There's been a few times where I've been like, oh no, I don't think this is for me, but that leads me closer to figuring out what it is I want. So it's never ever a failure. It's you learning more about yourself and learning more about what you want and what's important to you as well.
Absolutely. And you spoke there about your placement, and hopefully our young people get the opportunity for work experience and placements. But we have been asked, do you know of any activities or groups, volunteer groups that young people could get involved with just now, around sort of the marine mammals or the environmental side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know that with I think it's the Scottish Wildlife Trust, they've got youth leaders and a youth forum. I certainly know that with a lot of charities, I think it's they might have a minimum age of 16, but I'm not too sure. That might be one for people to look into, but they are requesting more and more volunteers all the time. So certainly whale and dolphin conservation. And there may be any local charities where you are, like the Hebridean Whale and Dolphin Trust. And they have volunteers all the time. So they have shore watch surveys, which means you go to the coast and you do a scientific survey. So you get binoculars and you have a look out for whales and dolphins and you learn what a scientific survey involves, what type of data you need to collect, what's important, and also just to see these animals as well in the wild is fantastic. But also, we need to ID them and identify the species. And I was not great at that to begin with, and there's no expectations, but it comes with practice. There are also some surveys that you can do on apps and things like that. But yeah, definitely, I mean, based on my experience, there might be loads more than these, but I'd say get in touch with Scottish Wildlife Trust. They're always wanting volunteers. They do offer volunteerships and things like that. Whale and Dolphin Conservation, Hebridean Whale and Dolphin Trust, and there might be ones near you as well. So I know on Orkney, we have a charity called OMRI, the Orkney Marine Mammal Research Initiative. They also have run types of surveys as well. So do have a look in your local area.
Brilliant. I know we've done a lot of work with the people at Marine Conservation Society as well, who do the sort of thing that you're talking about, things like seaweed surveys and
Absolutely.
bird surveys and things. So that's definitely one to have a look at, and I can pop a link under this video for people to have a look at that. Um, are there many career opportunities? I mean, you've talked about the different sorts of careers. So are there a lot of career opportunities in general and in Scotland that you're aware of?
Yeah, so at the moment we are seeing an absolute boom. So the company that I work for, I think when I started, we had about 150 people that worked here. There's now over 500. So there is an absolute explosion of work in this sector at the moment. And that's to do with us trying to gear up and get ready for our net zero goals, and also try and get renewable and less reliant on fossil fuels. So all this sort of construction and changing the way that we live affects the marine environment, because a lot of our energy is from a lot of stations, substations, platforms, drilling rigs from at sea, and we're now installing wind farms at sea. So even if you're not interested in marine mammals, or even at sea, we're still getting loads of wind farms on land, different types of technology to harness electricity, so solar farms, things like that. And all this construction can have an impact on animals. And that's why we're here. So that's why I am in my job, is to assess what that impact is and to hopefully try and reduce the impact or mitigate the impact. And there's just so much work going on at the moment. So the more people we have, the better. And the more diverse sort of ways of approaching things as well. So there may be an idea or a way, a method that we use currently, and we haven't thought of a different way to do it, but somebody else out there might think of that, and that would be really, really useful. So that's in terms of consultancy. In terms of charities, I know a lot of NGOs do have a lot of youth forums and things like that at the moment. Just on what we were talking about before, I think there's another charity called Orca. They're based down in Portsmouth. They have recently got funding to have a job for somebody who is, I think it's that they've just finished school or maybe running up to it, so might have to look into that, but I will share a link after this. But yeah, there are just so many jobs in terms of consultancy, in terms of NGO. So that's charities, and also if you want to work by yourself, if you want to be a freelancer, it's just absolutely crazy manic at the moment. I'm working on so many projects of marine wind farms and things like that. So there really, really is a lot of work out there in this sector at the moment. And if it's something you're interested in, definitely pursue that, because you won't be lacking in work at the moment.
Brilliant. And you mentioned that you tend to be more office based at the moment. So I suppose with technology and sort of video conferencing and things have changed with where you have to work. Are most of these jobs still sort of specific locations? I mean, obviously being by the sea, yourself up in Orkney, surrounded by the sea, but is there an opportunity to work more inland from home, or is it better most of these jobs still based near the sea?
Yeah, absolutely. And sorry, I didn't touch on the Scotland element of the last question. So there are big quotas at the moment for a lot of work to stay within the country that it's in. So sort of it's called supply chain. So within Scotland, the Scottish government are asking a lot of developers, a lot of construction companies to make sure that supply chain is within Scotland. And that means that the jobs are held within Scotland. So that's really fortunate that people will reach out to you and will try to keep that money, the economy and everything like that within Scotland. But yeah, in terms of working from wherever, so I have a remote role, and I know that there are remote home-based roles all over now. And so you can pretty much work from anywhere. There are some positions, if you need to be a ranger or your feet need to be on the ground, then yeah, absolutely, you may need to relocate. But I'm sure sometimes if you did want to do that role, you probably want to relocate to that position. But yes, there are certainly a lot of opportunities now where you can do home-based remote working from anywhere. I could pretty much go on holiday to Greece and I could work from home or work from Greece. As long as I log on for the right hours, then it wouldn't be a problem. So there is that flexibility, which is great.
It's amazing the change in the last few years then that allows people to do that. Just another couple of questions. So you've talked quite a bit about sort of volunteering that you've done and do now as an ambassador. Would you recommend volunteering to help in getting a job? Is that something you think is important?
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that definitely it not only improves your CV, it makes it look like to employers that you are passionate and dedicated. It also improves your skills. So being a STEM ambassador, when I first started, I didn't have any public speaking skills. I hadn't tried it at all, didn't have experience, and it was quite daunting. It was quite scary thinking about a classroom looking at me, or any kind of audience. So being a STEM ambassador has really allowed me to get more experience on public speaking, and the majority of the time now it doesn't even cross my mind when I have to do some public speaking. So it's having that exposure and that experience has really helped. But yeah, it improves your CV. You can add new skills to your repertoire. And again, it's that networking as well. You'll meet so many people when you're volunteering, and they'll all have different ideas and all have different experiences to share with you. So I really, really think it's key. And if anybody asks me for advice, that would be my top one, is to seek out some volunteer opportunities.
Fantastic. And the last question was about the sort of work that you're doing just now. Is there a specific mammal that you're focusing on, or is it general? And is there a big piece of work that you're particularly proud of, or that you're working on at the moment?
Oh, very, very good question. So the mammal that we generally focus on in the UK is the most numerous. So we have the most of them, and they are spread all around the UK, but not many people know about them. And they are called the harbour porpoise, and they're about the sort of same height as me. So I think they're about 1.5 to 1.7 meters. So quite a small mammal. But they're a small mammal that live in a cold water environment, so they have to constantly feed. And to feed, they need to echolocate. And echolocation involves using sound underwater. So any sound producing activities that we emit into the water has an impact on these animals. And harbour porpoises are known to operate at what's called a very high frequency, and that means that they're more sensitive to sound. So not only do they have to constantly forage, they are also more sensitive to sound that we produce. So that is sort of our main focus, is trying to reduce the impact on that species. And within the UK, it's really lucky that we have some really good legislation for these animals. So it is illegal to um, kill and disturb. So disturb is the main one. So if you're producing sound, you are disturbing an animal. Therefore, we need to try and reduce that. So we're really lucky in the UK that we do have this quite tight legislation that enables us to make sure that developers and contractors, construction companies stay within the remit and can help protect these animals. A big project or a piece of work that I've worked on that I'm proud of. Within my role, I do what's called project management as well. So that means I'm a project manager. So therefore, I will make sure that we get the right documentation. I'll review the documents. I'll make sure that the client's happy by going to client meetings as well. So it's not all just report writing and sitting in the office. There's a lot more involved, and making sure that we're delivering to timescales, we're in budget, lots of different things that go on with as a project manager. And there was one project that I dealt with that we had people in the field. So we had some surveyors out there for 2.5 months. So staying in communication with them, making sure that they are okay, managing crew changes, things like that. I would say I'm probably quite proud of that, and making sure that that finished on time and we got all the documents that we needed. So there is a real mix of work that I get involved in, which is really, really good.
Yeah, it sounds like it's never a dull moment.
No,
Yeah, sounds
no day is
fascinating.
the same. No 2 days are the same, which is good.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. That's been a really interesting insight into what you do, and some great tips there about how people can get involved and find out more about the sector. So it just remains for me to say thank you again to Ashleigh, and please do watch our other career videos, which will all be on our website for you to have a look at, and we'll pop some links under the videos to the things that we've spoke about today. Thank you, everyone.